Welcome to the video. This is going to be a bit of a niche one for people who are quite geeky and into their MMORPGs, especially their retro ones, who wish to either help with or set up their own server for GDLEnhanced, which is a Asheron's call emulation server. It's for testing new code or making your own server. With 32 gig of RAM, these servers can support about 1,000 players, and it is a fantastic game. All the links and the description of what I'm doing is going to be in the comments. I totally expect you to pause this video because I'm going to run through things in about 20 seconds. They're going to take you maybe 30 minutes to do. This is not a joke. We're going to start off right away with the software requirements. 2 bits of software which you are going to need. The first one is Visual Studio Code. This is not entirely obvious at the start, but it is required to look at JSON files, look at configuration files, and view readme files. If you want to edit SQL query, it's gonna do what's on the screen here. Visual Studio Code is going to show you what is a variable, what is an operator, what is a definition, and what is the input data. Now those are all very important. You can see they're color coded. If you're not familiar with it, it just makes it a bit easier to read. I'm very familiar with it and I don't want to go into the details at the moment. Now you want Visual Studio Community Edition 2017. 2018 will do, but the 2017 one appears to work. Now when you're installing this, I'm going to show you something. When you're installing this, you need to select a particular module that has to be installed. You're going to need the C# operators, which I haven't downloaded because I only used it to compile. But in the installer, and yes, it is going to make that noise and it's going to bring that up when you do the installation, you're going to have to set it up with a Microsoft account. And once you've installed it, if you've forgotten to put this in, you're going to need what's known in the industry from 20 years ago as Microsoft Fried Chicken. It's not actually Microsoft Fried Chicken. It's a form of, it's basically a Windows development platform for Microsoft Foundation criteria. It's required basically. So I believe if we check mine here, so there you go. Visual C++ MFC for x86 and x64. You need to make sure you have that module ticked, or GDLEnhanced will not build. It is a requirement. There is a component referenced in it. There's an include at the beginning of one of the very important files, and you're going to get a build error unless you include that. It's a small thing, but it's an important thing. You're going to need the Visual C++. I don't think I did, but you're going to need the desktop development with C++. You're going to need that really to be able to build this as well. So you want the core editor, C++. I mean, I have this because I use this with Unity as well. They aren't bad tools to get. But as you can see, that's what you're going to need. Okay? And you're only going to use this very shortly. So if you're not familiar with Visual Studio, you do not need to learn Visual Studio. It's going to be simple. I'm going to show you how simple it is to build. I'm not actually going to do the build, but I'm going to bring it up and show you how easy it is to do. So, opening Visual Studio 2017. See, it looks like the full version, and this is free. Be thankful, everybody, to Microsoft. They've done everybody a really good favor here. So, recent, you can see you have to open this file once you've downloaded it. And we're going to go into the downloads in a minute. Very simple. Let's do the downloads before we do this bit actually. So I have the files in here. So you're going to need to download either this test server or this master server. Okay, the test server is the one which, if you're going to help the project you're going to be working on, the master server is the one which is like a base. That's the one they've currently got on Reefco. It's not going to include the Weenies. I'll explain what Weenies are later. But it is going to allow you to see the code, edit the code, and edit certain things about it if you wish to help. But test server is what I want to run. So download that. Now where do you download that from? That's very fun. Aha. You download that from here, which will be in the description of the video. GitLab, Scribble, thank you Scribble, you're a great guy. GDL, oh did I put GLD? No, GDL. GDLEnhanced tree test server. And in here, if you want to download the source code, just go down to there, download as a zip file. You will then have a lovely little zip file like this, which you then unzip into a folder. I suggest a folder in your C drive, unless like me you've completely run out of room on your little tiny micro SSD that's really fast and you have to put it somewhere else. And it's going to run dog slow, but you don't care. Okay, so once you've done that, once you've unpacked it into a folder, you're going to get a new problem, which is that you're not a Visual Studio person, so you don't know what you're doing with it. So the best thing to do then in the test server is you need to open this file here, GDLEnhanced.vcxproj. That's basically the project file for Visual Studio. And I'll show you opening that right now. Best thing to do is to go into Visual Studio once you've got it installed, and then find your way to the file or path. Once you've got Visual Studio installed, if it's got these little plus signs by it, you can just double click on it and it'll open like this. Either way is good, whichever works for you, whichever you have the most confidence with doing. Now, this is where if you want, you can edit the project, you can edit the files, you can see what it does. This isn't going to change in-game items. This is more about the engine. In-game items are done through JSON Files and Weenies. This is where you're going to be able to edit other stuff. Here we go. Can you see the amount of stuff in here? And each one of these is going to look a little bit like this. This is code. You don't need to know it. You don't need to understand any of this if you're just setting up the server. If you're setting up the server, all you need to do is go to build and build solution. And it'll run through and complete. Once it's complete, and this might take, depending on your computer, mine's pretty fast, takes 5 to 7 minutes on mine. Usually 5. Your computer may vary. If you're running on a laptop or a slower computer, expect that to last a while. Once that's built, inside this folder here, inside a folder called bin, you will now have this, and this is what you've built. This is all of the data for the project. This is the server. If you were going to take this somewhere else, if you're making a standalone server, this is the folder contents you require. This is your server. This is the server executable. This is the config file for it. That's a logging config file. You can change all of that. It does use a lot of memory with all the logging on. I was looking at that. This is the default configuration file. And the reason I say Visual Studio Code, because you can just go open with code and look. It's a config file for a program and it's all color coded. Green are comments, these are values. It's very easy to find things like if you want your server to have 10 times XP, you can make 10 times XP. You can change the quest time multipliers for all of the repeat quests. So 1 day ones, you can put that to 0. Or you can put it to 0.1, so you can do them every 10 minutes. Fantastic, eh? Imagine all the Tuskers you can do in. You can do reward multipliers. Respawn time, one of my favorite ones here, which I have to try out, is hardcore mode players only. Oh yeah, you know what that means. When you die, your character will be deleted. Oh. And you got hardcore PvP mode. Hardcore mode is characters will be deleted by killed if enough of player is set to 1. If this is set to 0 and hardcore mode set to 1, dying to anything, even monsters, will trigger character deletion. Oh my god! Player killer only 1. That's to make it like a Dark Tide style server, which is a PvP only server. See, this is where you have your fun and edit stuff. But we'll get to that. That's going to be another video on setting up the server because I'm not going to get it. This video is going to be too long as it is. But this is why you need Visual Studio Code, and building it is why you need Visual Studio to get to the point where you have this stuff. Now you're here. The next thing you're going to need is a MySQL server. And to do that, you're going to need these 3, right? Now, I'm not actually sure if you need the Mariana DB10 thing, but apparently at the moment you do. But the first thing you want to install is this one. This is a copy of MySQL with Apache, and it's all set up, ready to rock and roll. It's a really good program. You install that. Take probably, if your antivirus is anything like mine, 20 minutes. You'll install that, and then you install the add-on. So, main, update, add-on. They're in the correct order in the description. They're in the correct order in the help file. Now, you don't have to use my guide. There is a guide that comes with it, but as you can see, it's a little advanced. There are steps in this guide which I'm going to run you through, which they aren't there. So once all of these three are installed, you then need to find and click on a program called, it leaves a little shortcut on your desktop. As you can see, my desktop is enormous and covered in junk. WAM server 64. Double click on that. It will always do that, and then it'll open. It's already running. If you want to check if it's running, you go in here, you're looking for Apache. Apache server's running. Oh god, I've got two of them now. That probably isn't good. No, HTTP server. Yeah, who cares? And if we search if we do these by name, go down to the bottom, it's in there somewhere. The way to test it is very, 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 very simple. You want to go to the following address on your computer. Localhost php myadmin. Just that. Everything else there you don't need. Bingo. That'll bring you to a login screen. You put root in, you put no password, so leave the password field empty. Got to make that clear for everyone. And then it'll bring you to this screen. It'll have all of these: information schema, MySQL, performance schema, and sys. Those are default files. Do not delete or change those. If you don't know what you're doing, don't touch. You're then going to click on New. You're going to do this to create the database. But we're one step ahead of ourselves because my description has this doing something else before this. And I'm going to run through this with you now, and so do the main instructions, and this is pretty important. When you've got this here, there is a data folder. This data folder requires client portal.dat and client cell_1.dat. These should be in your Asheron's Cool folder. They should be reasonably easy to find in there, and you copy them into here. They're pretty big, okay? They're pretty big. They are required by the game. The next thing we're going to need to install is we're going to need to install the Weenies. Otherwise, all you're going to have in here is one PyReal listed. These are quest location, monster locations, NPCs, you know, all sorts of things like that. Some are livestones, some are other things, and these are going to be added to the database on its first load, and they're going to be used by the game to reference where things are in the world. And if you get good at editing Weenies, you can actually make your own stuff and submit them. The place where you get these, you have to download the Weenies from, because otherwise you're going to be making an empty database. Now, an empty database is great for testing the engine. An empty database is fantastic if you only log in with admin and can teleport yourself anywhere, give yourself all the skills and test them, right? But if you're going to be like me, you're going to want to actually run around the world and test, see if the JSON file you've edited has actually made a difference to some sort of balance thing. Because these JSON files, I'll show you what's in them. Open Visual Studio Code. They're pretty illegible. This is the description of a Drudge Stalker. Now, as you can see, you can probably understand what some of these are, right? These are not a description of one Drudge Stalker. These are all the variants of Drudge Stalker which can be generated, including color variants, base armor, armor versus slashing. If you ever played the game, you probably realized that Drudge Stalkers didn't always have the same value. Some would be a lot easier to kill than another. And as you can see, the Drudge Stalker has many different variants. They also have different parts of their body which have different versus armor different. So you can see the Drudge Stalkers vary quite a bit. To fire and electrical, I would say looking at this, you want to hit them with electrical or shadow damage. Slashing if you don't have electrical. Their base armor is free. Now these are all modifiers based on stuff, but as you can see, this is not just one. And it's also got the amount of XP that they generate based on a level calculation. But you don't want to edit these now, but you know what I mean? You can get used to it, you can get into this. Once you get into all types of Weenies, you can edit your own ones. That's what this, you know, that's what this project's all about. That's what these people are doing, and that's what makes these servers working. And people are reconstructing this game from scratch. There's a lot of love and devotion gone into this. But so, right. Where do you get the Weenies from? Now there is a project for people building Weenies. I know that sounds crazy. It's called Lifestone. So you go www.lifestone.org, world release, and that's a copy of the Weenies. Now the world is in the Weenies. Portal.dat has the graphics, the map, everything else, but all the characters and everything. If you log into a world without Weenies, you have an empty world. And with a new character, you can't get out the training center. You're stuck in a room. You can't unlock the door because you can't give the cooling stone to the non-existent NPC. That's just the way it goes. So, moving on from that, you download the Weenies file, you unzip it, and you copy it into the Weenies folder. You got the JSON folder here, and in the JSON in data JSON, you got the Weenies folder. You copy them all in here. There's 6,304 of them last time I downloaded it. That will increase every time, and the data in there will change. That's something you might want to keep up to date on your test server, or on your server if you're making it. So now your environment's set up. Now it's time to make our database, which isn't going to be too difficult. I'm going to make a test database for you to show you the whole process. So click on New. You get this page with databases, database name. See, I can actually use this GDLE2. I can call it that. Create. Didn't change anything. There was no need to change anything. Everything worked out great. This step should take you less than 3 minutes. Next, click on Import. Now we have to choose a file to import. Don't change anything. GDLE_db.sql. Bang. Go. You'll be approached with a load of green messages. Scroll down all the messages, check that all of them have a nice green tick by them. You're good. Now you've got to import updated blobs. Now, here's a problem. You're going to need to do this. It's important that you do it, but you can't do it from here. If you do import and try and import the blobs, these two, they're going to fail. So, what you need to do is go over to the SQL here, go to the folder with the blobs, which is bin SQL dumps. You want to open them in Visual Studio Code, copy the text, and pop that into here. Yep, you're going to have to do a Control V because right click is going to do something else. You then want to change the delimiter to 2 forward slashes and click go. Bingo. Now do the same with the next one. SQL dumps, update Weenie, open with code, Control C, click on the SQL tab, paste it in, change the delimiter to 2 forward slashes, click go. Now my GDLE2 database is ready. It only has one account in it called admin with no username. There's no characters, no globals, no houses. There's teletowns. Can you see this? X position, Y position, land block, Z position, W orientation, which way it's facing, X orientation, Y orientation, Z orientation. Now what do you suppose these are? These are the town portals between the towns. They're already in the database we've imported. Are there any Weenies? No, there are no Weenies. These aren't like this anyway. These have blobs on the end, and these blobs are little bits of data. Now, as you can see here, all great. Blocks, all great. This database is ready to rock and roll. Next thing we need to do is run the program. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect to this brand new database I've made here, which isn't too hard, pretty simple. So let's go to GDL test server. Let's go into bin. Let's open this up. We can see the service is running. Look at local databases. They're all up. click on databases. Everything seems to be working. Now, the database, this whole database program comes with a default program called root. Root can only be accessed from the local host. So as long as you're not sharing this computer with a load of other people, you can be perfectly safe to leave the SQL Server stuff on localhost. Absolutely fantastic. Fine. Right. Now, if I want to use the second database, I'm going to have to edit this little server config. And do you see what we got here? I'm going to change that to 2. So if you wanted to put a different database name in, you could. I'm not going to actually change it to 2. I'm just going to cancel out of it. But if I wanted to use the database I'd made, I would set it to 2. Sorry, now I'm going to hit start. So this is the long part, loading the Weenies. Once this says server ready, and if you get any other message other than everything looks good down here, if you get could not connect to database, database not working, password error, authentication error, could not connect to database, any of these things means you need to go back, stick to previous steps, check your myPHP admin and check everything's working correctly. Loading the Weenies is going to take a while. Having said that, mine loaded in 41 seconds. Hee. That's because the first time it's going to take like 900 seconds. I'm not joking. Like 15 minutes. There we go. My server is now online. And just to prove my server's working, I'm going to show you how to set up your launcher so you can connect to it. Because, hey, you've got a Asheron's cool server. You're not going to want to test it. So, open Thog Launcher. I'm assuming you've already got this, right? If you don't know where to get this, the web page, GDLEnhanced, go there, read the getting started stuff. Click on Advanced View, edit servers, and as you can see here, you need to add a server, which can be done by clicking the bottom button there. The IP address needs to be 127.0.0.1. The default port for an Asheron's cool server is 9000. And description local server, EMU GDL. Yeah, just leave everything like that. Everything is default. And when you go back to simple view, you scroll down, you'll be able to see a green tick for your server being online. Select your server and click launch. Joy, is that not the greatest sound ever? We miss you, Turbine. We miss you, Asheron's cool. And here we go. Here's a character I made earlier. Best thing about running a local server like this is you can test stuff you're editing in the game, you can make your own Weenies, you can edit the JSON files, give yourself a huge XP if you just want to mess around. Ever wanted to know what it's like to play a max level character? Turn 10,000% up on all of the stuff. Prove it's running on my local machine. There is nowhere else in the world you're going to be able to play Asheron's cool and have a 2 millisecond ping time. Or be able to cast this quick. Whee! I'll show you something funny. One of the things I actually want to fix in the game, yeah, there's a little bit of lag here and there. The server is actually quite expensive in terms of what it's running. Is that, look at the size of those. Yeah, the scale is all wrong on the spells. These are level 1 spells. They should look like a football flying towards the people. That's one of the reasons I got into doing this. Is I love playing this game, and I just wanted to get that bit sorted. But doesn't it look great? I'm running around killing stuff, XP's working, this is all being stored in my character stats, and I can set up external access. I can invite my friends to come and play on my server, and we can, you know, you can put it in hardcore mode, you can put it in hardcore mode, turn all the XP up to like 1000% and just have a riot, right? Make it a PvP only server, you know, there's all PvP hardcore server, it would just be funny, right? Everything working as it should. Ouch. As you can see, they've done a pretty good job on 99% of stuff, the combat systems, everything. And how to recall to Lifestone. At Lifestone, of course. Oh, by the way, when you first come in the game with your first character, you're going to have to go through the training dungeon. Hand the calling stone to the person in the first room, talk to the person in the left on the second room, hand the stone back to them. You appear at whatever Lifestone or whichever town you chose. See, this is testing C. Yeah, a lot of this stuff happens without delay. Look, all these NPCs, if an NPC hasn't yet been fully coded, but they've been acknowledged as existing, they're naked, and when you click on them, they don't do anything. A lot of NPCs like this guy, working fine. See? What a nice guy. He gave me a contract. Oh, I didn't actually know that was working. You find something out new every minute. Oh. He wants me to go to Shoshi and go to talk to somebody. Nice. Let's assign to the Lifestone. As you can see, all of that is working as expected. Let me show you that ping again. 10 milliseconds. Now a little bit slow. Let's show you what it's doing to my computer on the other end though. See, I've got a reasonably powerful i5 and it's macking about 30%. It is running an entire Asherson core server to be expected, although I am concerned that the emulation isn't quite as efficient as the old game used to be, because let's face it, the old game used to run on a 2 gigabyte server with dual core, and it used to be able to service several hundred people. So they've got some work to do on that, but I mean, look, this is working, it's there, it's runnable. I've got a not too powerful i5, and that and the client's chewing up half my processor, you know, plus all the other stuff I got open, plus I'm recording this, plus I'm encoding it. So ain't too bad, right? 30% being taken up by the server. Asheron's core client, even at its best, is going to do about 15-25% or 41. Oh, not bad. Time for me to get an updated processor. I think this i5 might need to be upgraded. Okay, thanks for watching, and I hope you have as much luck. Questions down below. I know I'm going to get some awful ones, but I guess that's just the name of the game. Thanks for watching.